This is Posey Stay and Train working on recalls with distractions and loose leash walking outside. So I really wanted to work on recalls with distractions because she was doing really well with her recalls when there was low-level distractions. So good, in fact, that she would never leave my side. So when I would tell her to go play, she would just stick with me, which is great. At the end of the day, that is what I want to train puppies, is that the handler is so valuable that they don't want to leave them regardless if there are distractions. And they don't want to leave the handler because the handler is so amazing. They have treats, they have praise. The handler is just so valuable that the puppy wants to stick with them. So I amped up the level of distractions. I brought out Colby and Annie, both staff dogs that basically just ran around with her while I was training. And she was definitely more excited. She was doing really well with her recalls, but when she would come into a recall, she went back to the jump and then sit. So when I call her, if she would do the jump and then the sit, I would wait 3 seconds and then I would reward. So I get myself ready and call her in here. Here's the jump. So I just wait for her automatic sit. I count to 3 and then I reward. So she doesn't learn, an accidental behavior of jump sit. So when she jumps, I wait. She automatically sits. I wait for 3 seconds and then I start to reward. So the jumping part of it does not get her a reward. Staying in an automatic sit is how she gets the rewards. So you can see she doesn't want to leave me. So I'm just kind of ignoring her, wandering around, waiting for her to lose interest in me, and then I will do another recall. And this is why I wanted to bring out Colby and Annie, because they are very distracting and they love to play. So I wanted to bring out distractions and then call her in. There's her jump, there's her sit, I wait, and then I reward. And I also want to reward at a higher rate when there's another dog there because her excitement level goes up, her arousal level goes up, so she's less likely to stay in a sit, especially when there's another dog right there, in her opinion, threatening to take those treats. There, so I waited those 3 seconds and I started to reward. And of course, Colby gave me a nice automatic sit as well, so I have to reward him. He is older and he has been around a little bit longer, so he can go longer periods of time without a treat, but I do need to sneak one in there just to let him know, yes, that's good. Good job. And there's another recall, recalling her off of Megan. That time she didn't do a jump, so that time she got rewards right away. And of course, Colby's here. Colby didn't get any treats that time because he did not give me an automatic sit. Posey got all the treats because she's giving me a nice automatic sit. I'm gonna wait for Colby. He knows what to do. There we go. Good, so if Posey gets up while I'm feeding Colby, I simply wait for her to sit back down and then I reward her. So she doesn't get a treat if she decides to get up while I'm feeding Colby. She was not formally released, so she should not be getting up in between, regardless if I'm feeding Colby. So that time she stayed, so then she gets a treat. And then I just alternate back and forth. Here she is having a good wrestle with Colby and Annie. They are bigger than her, but they're very gentle players, which is why I chose them over, our border collies or our bigger dogs, because they are a little bit more rough. And Posey is still a puppy, so I don't want to expose her to too rough of play style. I want to keep it nice and calm, And they are distracting, the two of them, but they are also able to, let her get rewarded and get a reward here and there. So they're kind of the perfect level of distraction for her. And if she's up without permission, I reward the other dogs for staying, and then she gets a reward after she has watched me give them treats. Lots of distractions today. Staff members everywhere, staff dogs, we're putting away equipment, daycare dogs are going home, the doorbell's going off, so this is a lot for her. And she's still doing really well with her recalls. And doing really well sticking with me while I kind of walk around, which is what I like to see. I like to see that the puppies see me as valuable, and that they want to stay with me, even if there's two dogs that are really playful, even if there's staff members walking, talking, even if the doorbell's going on. She always has one eyeball on me, which is what I hope she does with you as well, because she sees me as very valuable. The other two dogs are here, but they're not doing their automatic sit, so they didn't get any treats at all, and Posey got a lot of treats. So eventually what that teaches her is that even if the other dogs are there, even if they're not sitting, if you sit, you get lots of treats. And I also want to reward the other dogs too, to teach her that if I'm rewarding another dog, that doesn't mean she should get up. It's in her best interest to stay sitting until she's been released, even if I'm feeding Colby or Annie or any other dog. So now we're going to start loose leash walking outside. I have everything in my one hand. My treats, my clicker, and my leash are all in one hand. And then my other hand is where I bring a treat out and reward. So I didn't have someone to help me film, so I'm trying hard to film with one hand, click, reward, and walk with the other hand, which I don't recommend. It was very hard, and hopefully you don't get too dizzy watching, because I got dizzy editing. So I'm just trying to film to kind of show you what I'm doing. Again, if she pulls, I stop, and the moment she releases pressure, I click and I reward. And in addition to that, every time she looks back at me, I click and reward. If she's walking nicely beside me, every 3 or 4 steps, I click and reward. So every time I see an opportunity of her doing something that I like and I want her to continue doing, I'm going to click and reward it. So if she pulls, stop, wait for her to look back, click and reward that. If she is looking back at you, click and reward that, like right there. If she is walking nicely beside you, every 3 to 4 steps, click and reward, just to help continue that behavior. So she is able to walk ahead if she wants. I don't care if she's ahead of me. I don't care if she's behind me. All I care about is her being on a loose leash. That's it. So if I have that nice J in the leash, I'm going to click and reward. And I always use just a regular leash. A 6-foot leash is perfect. I don't want to use a retractable yet. I want to wait until she's able to control her pressure and she understands the value in walking like nicely near me, meaning she doesn't run out to the end of that leash and pull on the end of the retractable. I want her to, understand that I'm valuable and that sticking with me is going to get her rewards. But that being said, she can walk ahead. That's okay. And so the regular leash, the 6-foot leash, is a lot easier to control. It's a lot easier to hold if you have treats and a clicker. And then as she gets older, more skilled, she's walking nicely, 95% of the time, then we can bring out the retractable. She loves to try the automatic sit with me. She knows that gets her treats. So every time I stop walking, or maybe I'm catching up to her, she automatically sits, which is fine. If she wants to do that, that's fine. I didn't ask for it, so I'm not going to reward it, but it's better than pulling, right? So if she wants to give me a little automatic sit, that's okay. I wanted to take her across to the grass, just so she could sniff and possibly have a potty break. Because as much as I want to reward for her walking nicely, I also want to give her a sniff break. Oh, there's a potty break there. So I do click and reward a lot for her walking, but then once I find a nice patch of grass or a nice row of trees, I will say, okay, go sniff. And then I will follow her wherever she wants to go. If she wants to go left, we'll go left. If she wants to go right, I'll go right. The only thing I won't let her do is pull me. So if she pulls, I do the same thing. I stop and wait for her to release that pressure. And very quickly we noticed we had friends, so we had to ditch our plan on the grass. And there's our friends, 2 geese, and she was not having it. So we turned and we went, let's go this way instead. But after she saw the geese, it brought up her arousal level, so she was pulling a lot more than she was before. So I had to go back to clicking and rewarding more frequently to get her brain back into that mindset. Because once they have seen a trigger and maybe they bark or something excites them and causes over arousal, then you're going to get more pulling because she's excited, right? Her body has just released a bunch of stress hormones like adrenaline, which are getting her body prepared to run. So now she wants to pull. But I'm just going to go back to what I was doing, clicking and rewarding more frequently as long as she's not pulling. And you'll notice she whips her head back, and that's what I'm clicking. Right there, she gets a click. And I just have to fix this leash here. There we go. And then off we go again. So anytime I see a trigger or a distraction or something that I think is going to kind of set her off, make her bark, get her excited, overly aroused, I'm going to turn and say, let's go this way instead. And I'm always going to reward her for that. And I'm also going to try to sit and reward as the distraction goes by. So it depends on the distraction. If she's already started to react, then I'm just going to go, let's go this way, and turn and kind of get her into a spot where she can focus on me again. Or if it's a vehicle or a person walking by or something like that, I'm always going to try to start rewarding before she starts to react. If she has already started to react, I'm just rewarding her for barking, lunging, doing all of the things that dogs do when they're overly aroused. So I need to try and get in there before she starts to react and reward. She doesn't necessarily have to sit. If I can keep walking by, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk and reward at the same time. But if I have to get myself into a spot where the distraction has to walk by, then I'll do that as well. So for example, I had, big trucks driving by, so I would kind of tuck myself away into a safe spot, and I would reward her as the truck went by. So instead of having her, watch the truck go by and potentially cause fear or over arousal, I just kept her focused on me by rewarding at a high enough rate that she didn't even care about the truck. And what that does over time is it teaches them to look to you for a reward every time they see a distraction or a trigger, instead of getting excited, right? So anytime a truck would go by, I'd reward her. If a construction person popped out of around a corner or a truck or something like that, I would just turn and say, let's go this way instead, just to avoid that situation and to avoid the over arousal. And hallelujah, somebody saw my struggle and came out to help me film. So you can kind of see how I do this. I have everything in that one hand, my thumb on clicker, a handful of treats, and then my leash is just looped on a finger, and that's how I walk. My leash is always looped on a finger. The reason I do it on a finger is so I can feel the tiniest bit of pressure that she puts on herself, and I can stop and then change direction. Other than that, I'm walking, and every 3 to 5 steps, 4 to 6 steps, depending on how we're doing, I'm going to click and reward her, and I reward right down my side there, so she wants to stay in that general zone when we're walking. The more I reinforce in this area, the more she's going to want to stay in that area, because that's where she gets all of her reinforcements. And then I let her go sniff, where I just say, okay, go sniff, let's check this stuff out. She doesn't want to sniff. She's in food mode, which is okay. Right now she's on a sniff cue, so I'm not going to reinforce. If she wants to stick close to me and walk with me, that's great. But on a sniff cue, again, I go where she goes, as long as she's not pulling me. And this is where I would kind of find like a row of trees or a patch of grass, something that I know she's going to want to sniff. And then I'll say, okay, go sniff. And that is her cue to go and sniff. So that tells her that if we're working like we are right now, she can't just pull ahead and do what she wants because she's not on a sniff cue. If she was on a sniff cue, she could pull ahead and sniff. Obviously she can't pull, but she can go ahead and sniff. So there's another sniff cue there. So no treats. The sniffing is the reinforcement in itself. So I just walk with her, and I have that so my right hand is guiding the leash so she doesn't get tangled up. But she can do what she wants. And if she wants to stick with you and walk beside you, that's great. Good for you, puppy. But if she wants to go ahead and sniff, she can do that too. Sniff cues are for the dogs. And I do have a truck coming, so I'm just going to tuck myself over into a safe spot, and I'm going to reward her as the truck goes by. Again, teaching her that I'm more valuable than the distraction. And I dropped a treat, of course. And then once the truck goes by, we can get back to business, and I can say, let's go this way, and off we go again. And she's still on a sniff cue. So I'm letting her do her thing. She wants to trot beside me, great. And now we're back to clicking and rewarding every few steps, as long as she's walking nicely and has a nice J in the leash. And remember, all of that pressure is released and or put on her own. I am never pulling her. I don't ever want to teach her that I'm going to ever pull her. If she wants to pull herself, that's her decision, and that decision is going to get her nowhere. So if she pulls, I stop. If she's on a loose leash, I click and reward. So she'll quickly learn that pulling has no value because it never gets her to go where she wants. But being on a loose leash is how she gets everything she could ever dream of. Treats, rewards, happy talk, all that good stuff.